what's up, everybody? Welcome to Simply Cyber Firesides. I'm your host, Dr. Gerald Auger, and today we're diving deep into cyber psychology with John Caballero, one of the leading experts in understanding how psychology and human behavior impact cybersecurity. And to say that I'm excited would be an understatement because this is clearly all up in GRC's face. So GRC Mafia represent well up in this piece. Now, John serves as a fractional CTO, CISO, and CTRO through Terra Cyber. But what makes him unique in our industry is his specialization, it's kind of a fun word to say, his specialization in cyber psychology and linguistic cybersecurity systems. And if you don't know what that is, don't worry. You're going to understand that in a hot minute when John comes on. He understands that cybersecurity isn't just about technology. It's about threat actors exploiting human psychology and how organizational culture determines security success or failure. So no matter where you are in your career journey, and honestly, this is going to be applicable for people who are not working in GRC, but if you are in GRC, if you're a representing card-carrying member of the GRC Mafia, if you're looking to level up and deliver cyber risk reduction for your business stakeholders, I'm telling you, you're going to get wicked value from the conversation today on how to utilize that human psychology to undermine threat actors' attempts to circumvent controls and attack your end users and frankly, your friends and loved ones. Recently, John presented on cyber psychology at the DoD's Zero Trust Virtual Symposium, where he shared insights on accounting for the human element in security architecture. With over 20 years of experience leading cybersecurity for organizations, including Florida's economic development, John has seen firsthand how psychology drives both security failures and successes. So today we're going to explore three critical areas. First, how threat actors use psychological manipulation in their attacks and what defenders like you need to understand about this. Second, how organizational psychology and culture impact security outcomes. And third, practical strategies for designing security programs that work with human nature rather than against it. So whether you're a security professional trying to understand why your users keep clicking malicious links like Carl in accounting, or a leader wondering why your security culture isn't taking hold, you're doing all the right things. Why isn't it working? Well, it could be a psychology problem, and John's here to help you understand what it is and, more importantly, how to solve that. This conversation is going to give you actionable insights into the psychological foundations hold on one second, of effective cybersecurity. So there will be actionable takeaways, things that you can do to hook up your end users, things that you can implement at your organization today, maybe right after the call, depending on what time zone you're in. As always, this is an interactive program. Holler at your GRC, holler at your Team SC, Dave Chigbu, Souza, 1841, the entire Florida contingent, if you're here, FedEx, James McQuiggan, Chuck Sapp, right? The Florida reppin'. Come on down. Let's go. Welcome John Caballero to Simply Cyber Firesides. Let's cook. What's up, John? How are you doing, bud?
I'm doing well, and thank you for the glowing intro. I wouldn't call myself a leader. I would call myself a practitioner because hopefully there's always somebody smarter than yourself. And that turns out to be often the case.
No doubt, no doubt. I mean, everybody's learning from everyone, but you are a leader. You're about to lead this conversation and help a bunch of people in our community level up their skills. So I don't think I misspoke. I think you're being very, very humble, which is fine, John. So John, dude, cyber psychology. There's not a lot of terms in our industry that people haven't heard of, right? CIA triad, zero trust architecture. We hear all these things, but cyber psychology, when you reached out to me, I was like, you have my attention, right? So level set for us. Break it down. What is cyber psychology?
Well, initially just started back in 2008. Mary Aiken, Marshall Rich, and several other the pioneers, the Journal of Cyber Psychology and Behavior, decided they wanted to study the interaction between people and technology and how technology affected people. So over the course of the evolution of technology, it obviously started to include cybersecurity because cybersecurity is directly related to technology.
There you go. So let's move in and start getting like right into the details, right? Threat actor psychology and attack methods, man. So from your cyber psychology background, research, insights, what are some of the more powerful psychological triggers that threat actors exploit, right? Because we need to know these things so we can protect ourselves, our organization, our end users. What are those threat actors using, and kind of go underneath the hood on why they're effective?
Well, Dr. Eric Huffman says that our reactions to cyber social situations are all pre-programmed, and that we don't have a sense of stranger danger. And the common attacks, anybody who's dealt with email security knows these: urgency, impersonation, elicitation. And for those who don't know what elicitation is, it's a spy tactic where you try to get information from somebody using statements rather than questions, where the target will try to either correct misinformation, be helpful, or to actually show expertise.
So let me ask you, man. So like stranger danger, my 9-year-old, he's 10 now. My 10-year-old, he knows not to get into a windowless van that says free candy, right? But he'll all day long click on an email that says free Robux, right? Is there a psychological element at play here as to why we're victims to kind of online scams far easier than in person?
Well, you can consider the online disinhibition effect, where we act differently in person, than in online. And that has to do with our emotional intelligence, what we're presented with. Nobody likes to think about cybersecurity. Nobody likes even more to talk about it. So it's our exposure to the risks, the real world scenarios, the real world attack tactics. And when you're not exposed to that on a daily basis, look at if you're driving a car, you're going to know to stop at a red light and hopefully look both ways. But somebody sees a website come up and they're offering some product that has a great discount, and a younger person, it might not think that it is strange for them to ask for their social security number. It's exposure, basically.
Well, interesting. So I guess, hey, chat, let me ask you. Do you find yourself way more like open to opportunities online versus in person? I feel like in person, you got like a sixth sense, right? Like, I don't know if there's ever been any type of like academic research done on this, but I do feel like I have like a spidey sense, right? Like you feel someone staring at you. You feel like, maybe it's not true or something, but like, oh, I don't want to go in that house. That feels wrong. Versus online where you're just kind of like gleefully clicking around. But, I don't know. It definitely would definitely suggest why I feel like threat actors are really into attacking online just because of the sheer convenience of it, right? Like you can wholesale attack the living crap out of a lot of people versus in person where you have to like physically go over and mug them and then move on to the next person and mug them. It's a lot of work, John. So it's a lot of things playing against us.
Yeah, you're talking about emotional intelligence. How people if people have good emotional intelligence, they understand their emotional triggers, and they're less likely to actually engage in potentially harmlessly, in many cases, in some cases not, activities.
Oof. All right. Well, well, we've got our work cut out for us. Now, as far as linguistics manipulation go, and I found this, like, first of all, triple word score on Scrabble, so like loving that. But you have a lot of experience around linguistic cybersecurity systems. So walk chat through how threat actors use specific language patterns and psychological priming to make their attacks more successful.
Well, one of the organizations I worked at, there was an email. They had gotten into this leader's email account, and they knew exactly how he spoke. So they knew his linguistic style, his grammar, his tone, And then they reached out to the finance department with an email. Of course, this person didn't like using corporate email. So that's one thing. They created I don't remember if it was Yahoo or Outlook or another account, but a consumer grade account. And they emailed accounting and said, I need you to pay this bill.
Mm-hmm.
And they used his exact tone, his exact verbal mannerisms, and they had a successful BEC, a business email compromise attack. The accounting department paid $25,000.
That sucks. Augusto Delgado with our first question of the day. Augusto gets the circle gets the square, if you will. He wants to know, what are some practical exercises that can help increase awareness for those users that are weak-minded, especially with online dating and fall for scams? Because he tends to get a lot of those calls from clients. There's definitely an uptick in that activity. What would you say to that, John?
Real world exercises. If people are getting hit with emails, set the baseline. Say, if you're getting these type of calls, always approach them with an air of suspicion, and then report incidents, because when you do, your cyber teams have a better ability to actually deflect these threats, these incidents.
Yeah, 100%. And just, if I may, because this particular topic is very real and it impacts a lot of, just individuals, right? Like, an organization get hit, it sucks, but like, when your Aunt Dorothea falls for a romance scam, you're like, wah. So, I mean, I've seen these things, and honestly, I'd love your thought on this from a psychology perspective, John. I've seen situations where I've helped clients in situations before where one specific client I'm thinking of, their aunt had fallen for a romance scam and was like just shoveling money out to this criminal, and the family knew it. The family told her. She refused to recognize it. She straight up refused. And they had evidence and supported it and shared it with her, and she still wouldn't see it. So, I mean, she was like so far down the hole that she just like refused to acknowledge the reality of it. I mean, is that another psychological thing where, people are too far pot committed and they just don't want to, or maybe they're embarrassed and they don't want to own the shame of it? Or did any of your psychological background lend any insights into this type of situation?
Oh yeah, I mean, we as humans don't want to hear anything that is different than what we believe. So some of the shame factor, but if I guess it was called the primacy effect. You tend to believe the first thing you hear, in spite of evidence to the contrary.
Oh yeah, I could see that too, and yeah, I think that the entanglement of like romantic emotions, not necessarily like physical, you know what I mean, but just like the love, right? Like someone loves me, someone's there for me. It's very powerful in emotion, right? I mean, which makes it so sinister and insidious that these threat actors are doing it.
Yeah, fear is another emotion that's powerful, and it's fear.
Yeah. Yeah, fear is. And LeGrod says Aunt Dorothea keep getting scammed. The good news is my Aunt Dorothea, she's not really tech forward, so she's probably never seen the show. So she doesn't know how often I use her as the example. Mara Levy wants to know, John, how can training be improved beyond don't click on that? Great question, Mara.
Well, that's where you engage people's emotional intelligence. You start getting them. You engage in micro training. People tend to forget things very quickly, and there's something called the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve, and that tells you basically how much people will retain after a lesson. So repeated exposure to the situations, and also tie things into real world scenarios. That's when things become personal to people. It's like, who wants to be the person who clicked on a link and brought down their company? So understanding risk and consequences that helps.
I love that you're saying this, John, because this like reinforces like what I believe and what I push. So like I'm glad I'm getting like independent verification that this is the right way. It's very, very cool. We're talking to John Caballero around cyber psychology and the utility of it to help your organization reduce cyber risk at the human level. One question that I got for you, John, a lot of times I feel like people have biases because like for me, I'll just name some, right? Like I work in America. I've always worked I've worked outside of America, but I've always worked in like kind of US systems, US federal systems. So a lot of my experience, a lot of my perspective is within a United States construct, right? So just as an example, can you talk to us about how threat actors might use psychological manipulation techniques that is different for different cultures, different organizations, these kind of dimensions that someone with biases might not be thinking of?
Well, I know that point of origin. If you're expecting somebody from you work in the UK and you get a call from somebody in the UK, it's much easier for them to impersonate or pretend to be somebody from your help desk than somebody say from another country. Now there are cultural different cultures value different things. Some are more open about talking about problems. Some are more closed and they don't talk about problems. So there's also mental health aspects in that too. So
as far as AI goes, threat actors are able to use AI as much as you and I are able to use it, right, John? And they can quickly get the right tone, the right cultural references, the right, colloquialisms for a certain, like people in Iowa, drink their beer with olives in it, apparently. So, you know what I mean? Like things like that. And certainly they're using it for romance scams as well as creating virtual avatars. No need to go scrub the internet for someone's profile anymore. You can just whip up an AI individual. So what are your thoughts around? I mean, and this is a big conversation, but what are your initial thoughts around AI in like the psychological manipulation realm of cybersecurity attacks and frankly defenses?
specifically about AI,
Yeah, like
yeah,
let's get into AI a little bit because I mean it is to me AI allows you to take a blunt instrument like psychological manipulation, social engineering, and really refine it down to a scalpel with like surgical sharpness because the AI will just like hone it down as much as you want.
well, AIs can gather a lot of information, and my one of my specific areas was email security. Back in the day, you could look at it. If you were looking, you could spot an email because it just had something about it that just didn't look right. So with AI, these emails are becoming much more sophisticated. They're much better at impersonating people in organizations, and also they have create a feeling of validity because they're talking about something that has to do with your organization.
There you go. Thank you. I appreciate it. I certainly have you seen any instances yet of kind of like AI being utilized in either a deep fake way from a like a compromise perspective, like a romance scam or some type of BEC, like in the line of work that you've been kind of cooking around that you can talk about, obviously, right?
I haven't. I've done a fair amount of reading, and what I'm reading is concerning.
Well, you got any predictions while we got you here? Like, I mean, normally this is reserved for the end of the show, but like while we're on topic, any predictions for like, where this could go or how this could be manifested for like I don't know the next year or something?
Well, predicting, if we are all good at predicting, well, I think it's going to become, I think everybody will agree, it's going to become more difficult. There's a lot of capabilities. I don't think there's a lot of transparency in what's going on, and there's organizations coming out that are trying to engage the the ethics of the use of cybersecurity,
Hmm.
or sorry, AI in cybersecurity. And also, there's a group called IARPA, and they're looking at leveraging um, psychology of threat actors. So I don't have a really good prediction, other than saying that it's probably going to get worse before it gets better.
Oh my God, 100%. Now, one thing that you mentioned a few minutes ago that I love is like micro training, or just in time awareness, really quick, as opposed to these like annual PowerPoints. I mean, I know that's a little bit older back in the day, um, but how do you approach kind of micro trainings? Is it more uh, reactive, or is it proactive, or what? I guess give us your strategy for this micro training, because I love the concept of it.
Well, you really have to start day one, and it's you have to start being proactive, and you start by setting the stage, let people know what the risks are, and what's required of them. We're asking you, we take your job seriously, and we value what we're doing, but we need you to have a new mindset about being secure. And when you give a little bit of micro trainings here and there, it begins to form that emotional intelligence around what's normal and usual. And when something unusual comes up, then you're more, it's like, wait a second, that doesn't feel right. And of course, there's the obligatory oopsie. You're not in trouble, but let's talk about this again.
Now, John, you had mentioned at some point, it was a quote that I captured, that culture eats strategy for breakfast. I don't know if you recall saying that, but culture eats strategy for breakfast in cybersecurity. Share with us like a specific example where organizational psychology undermined like a security control or a technical measure to kind of illustrate this point of this quote you believe.
Well, it's not my quote. I'll quote Peter Drucker and Tim Denman from the Defense Acquisition University. That's an easy one. Organization, they didn't want to deploy multi-factor authentication on their VPN because they felt that it was mm, abusive or overly complex. And another one would be skipping patches because companies don't want to take the downtime hit. I think we can all say that from our personal experiences that there's a plethora of examples.
Absolutely. I mean, is there any best practices that you like prefer for organizations to kind of address these type of things?
Well, we have to engage leadership,
Mm.
and leadership has to understand that risks have cost, and then ignoring risk, they can be very costly. And when leadership takes the cybersecurity culture to heart, and that's where people see that it has value, and they're more likely to not be the shadow IT, more likely to not work around security because they know that it's valued.
One of the challenging things that we deal with is practitioners, okay, is executives. They're VIPs. They have access to like issuing money out of the business and demanding things with authority. Yet they are some of the most challenging end users to corral, if you will, around best practices. Do you like using your psychology knowledge? I mean, have you encountered some of these situations, and have you had any luck kind of like, helping executives see the light in some way versus other way? I mean, because obviously you can't grab them by the back of the neck and mush their face into the cybersecurity and say like, "Oh, you like that? How's that taste?" Right? You got to use it a little bit more tact. This isn't the Tyler Ramsby show. We're not just bluntly doing things around here. So, what is your technique, John?
Well, I had one leader that had requested that they didn't want any type of email filtering whatsoever. And I won't mention the organization, but the organization was a heavy target of nation state level type of attacks. And again, going back to how you engage people, I said, what is your goal here? What are you really looking at? Because doing this is less than optimum, and it could have a very non-optimum result. And they said, well, I don't want X type of emails to be delayed. I said, we can accommodate and loosen the restrictions a little bit, but this is what we have to do to protect the organization. And if the organization went down, how much would it cost? There's the real cost, there's reputational cost. And when you make it relevant, then you get a lot of buy-in.
How does executive psychology and leadership mindset trickle down to like impact an organization's overall security posture, in your experience?
Well,
like have you seen like the tone at the top, if you will, influence the way that the overall organization's attitude is towards cybersecurity? And have you kind of utilized that in any capacity to modify behaviors?
Well, if the and everybody is considering the bottom line as being very important, but if the bottom line is the most important thing, and at the top, then sometimes corners get cut. And I mentioned earlier, patches don't get deployed. Another one would be taking the time to do your due diligence. So if a leader says your work is important and I want you to make sure your work is taken care of so that the organization is safe, that attitude, well, one, it really engages the cybersecurity staff, and then other people will see that the leadership sees that cybersecurity is important to the organization, and it's like a halo effect. So basically, it's becomes a collective goal, so to speak.
I love it. I do love it so much, and I agree. Like if you can get your executives like bought in, you know what I mean? Like any other. I hate to use the word manipulation, John, because I feel like that's got a dirty connotation. But there is
Persuasion.
technique. What's that?
Persuasion.
Yeah, persuasion. There are techniques. I mean, like for me personally, I like before I try to like introduce policy change and like, oh, this is how it's going to be. I love going to my executives or the SOC and being like, hey, like, I really want to understand, like, how do you work? Like, what do you need? Like, what's critical to you? I already have it in my mind what I'm going to do, but like, I want to know what they do and how they do it so I can make sure that it's accounted for in my overall strategy. But at the same time, I do believe that there is a psychological mechanism of considering them before introducing some type of burden or some type of change. I don't know. Again, I don't study these things academically, so I'm not 100% sure. But I mean, have you seen any type of benefit one way or the other around the approach of kind of engaging those individuals that would be impacted effectively by decisions and by control?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the biggest changes was the adoption of multi-factor authentication in just signing on to, say, Microsoft. And initially, a lot of people, and there are still some organizations that don't require it when you're logging into the websites, and it changes the flow for people. So when you reach out to people and you're letting them know your work, your goal is valuable, and we need you to shift your mindset to becoming, sorry, the word,
Yeah, no problem.
that cybersecurity is the goal that enables you to get to your goal, which is to be successful at the end of the day. So when you engage people, they when you engage with people, that's really when you get the buy-in.
I love it. Now, just to derail the conversation just a little bit, we got a keen eye in the audience here. LeGrat saying, liking the Star Trek artwork on the wall behind you, John. John, you a big Star Trek guy?
Well, Gene Roddenberry was actually a family friend.
Oh,
My
wow.
grandfather
Jeez.
and Gene flew together at Pan Am. So yes, I'm a big Star Trek fan, and I also designed a computer graphics and storage system for a Star Trek independent Star Trek film, which was ranked as #2 best in the world by Sci-Fi Wire, and I even got to be in a couple of productions.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. So John sent me some assets. Of course, I have like 50 emails open right now, so I can't. I'll find it in a minute. But John sent me some assets. I mean, this is pretty cool. He was in a Star Trek production, so LeGrat, not just like noticing the artwork, but also the guy's got some chops in the space. Also, want to point out. If you got a really keen eye, it's kind of hard because John's sitting down, but he's got a specific shirt on, and I'll give a high five to anyone who can name the band. Is that a fair hint, if you will?
Yes.
Name the band that John is representing. Obviously, there's probably a Star Trek theme in there somewhere. So we'll leave that as an exercise for you guys. I'm sure people are screen capping right now and doing Google image search like as quickly as they possibly can. Oh my God. So John, Mara Levy actually jumped into chat and said, she wants to know how can understanding how we learn and remember help build more automatic responses to online manipulation? Great question, right? How do we bake in these natural responses, these natural reactions into our end users or the people that we're trying to help protect?
Well, people by nature like to make, no, like is not a good word. Will make decisions quickly. And when you do repetition and you expose people to different things, they develop a mental muscle memory. Anybody who's done scuba diving and your instructor tells you that you need to clear your regulator every time you put it in your mouth for the first time, so you don't inhale, that becomes second nature to you. So that's what I would say.
There you go, Mara. Hopefully that gave you the answers you needed. We've got some guesses coming in for the band, by the way, just since this is fun. Stovacor, Cheddar Bob wants to know, or K-Pla. Also, the Roddenberries, which I like the name of that. If that's not a band, it should be a band. I feel like the Roddenberries would be like a polka band from like I don't know, Schenectady or where some insert Wisconsin town, right? Kenosha, right? And it's like an 18-piece polka band called the Roddenberries doing a lot of Star Trek covers. Any of these right, John?
Good guesses, but not yet. And I think I said mental muscle memory. Emotional intelligence is the proper term. So basically, we're engaging people to be aware of their their cyber surroundings.
I love it. So I think emotional intelligence is incredibly valuable, and I feel like emotional intelligence and communication are like two of the things that get downplayed the most because it's like, oh, I can speak English, right? Like I can communicate, and it's really a refined skill, just like emotional intelligence, where people are like, no, I care, and then like they just like lose their mind when something disagrees with them. Do you have any I guess, insights or techniques around emotional intelligence, maybe identifying someone with low emotional intelligence or techniques for improving your own emotional intelligence?
Well, it starts with, I would say it starts with testing. Do attack scenarios and see who falls for it. I did a shout out to James McQuiggan and his crew. I did had only one other person in the company knew about it. We did a fairly realistic phishing email test, and we had probably over, let's say, I think it was about 28% of the organization fell for it. And if somebody had taken a couple of seconds, they would have said, wait a second, this isn't right. So when you get that extra step of thinking in, that's where you say, wait a second, this is an urgent email, but does it make sense? Is the timing right? Um, Even if it appears to be coming from somebody you know.
So when we are dealing in, we've been talking about a lot of left of boom today on this show. And if you're just joining us late, his name is on the screen, but it's John Caballero. And we're talking about cyber psychology and the use of psychology in cyber and cyber operations. And we've been focusing a lot on left of boom, how threat actors weaponize psychology to undermine victims and stuff like that. But let's turn the page a little bit, John, and look at right of boom, right? How does understanding psychology help during incident response, like in terms of user behavior and team dynamics when under pressure?
Well, I would say having the mindset of preparing, preparing for the ride of boom, designing good systems, using zero trust methodologies to minimize the impact, because there will be impact. It just, oh, how bad is it going to be? Is it going to be you shut down for a few hours and wipe your systems? Or in some cases, there was a company in a 180-year-old company in the UK that went out of business because they couldn't be out of operations for 3 months. So, and then when you have really strong teams who really have that bond together, then that helps too. But defining policies, I think that's really defining and following policies.
I love it. I also want to share one thing that I feel like personally gets overlooked a lot, and I've dealt with some kind of gnarly incidents in my career. One thing that I feel like people don't think of when they think about the psychology is when you're dealing with an incident, like you can't be like, well, it's 5 o'clock, I'm punching out, I'll be back at 9 tomorrow, good luck with that. No, like you might be there 48 hours, you might be sleeping at your desk, you might be hungry, you know what I mean? Like it could be a disaster where, like, a hurricane hits friggin' Florida. And again, this is John's in Florida, right? So I'm not putting any ill will. You know what? A hurricane hits Louisiana. Sorry, John. We're not going to put that juju on you. Okay. And sorry, Tech Ricky and Gary Sturgiadis. Okay, a hurricane hits Alabama. We'll just keep moving down the coast until we get where someone in the chat isn't here. And now you've got a situation where I'm asked to work at the hospital, yet I have concerns in my own personal family safety, right? And where are my priorities? Clearly with my family, right? So I feel like there's a lot of like human factor psychology that isn't taken to an account when you're doing tabletop exercises and stuff like that. You got to feed people. People got to sleep. People start stinking, right? Like literally they smell bad and you're like, oh my God, like Jesus. So yeah, tent hallways is a thing. So I guess I want to share with everyone, since we're talking about this particular topic, it's like you really should think through kind of the human factors as well during tabletop exercises. John, have you done any, and this isn't a fair question if the answer is no, but like, have you ever done any kind of tabletop exercises or simulations where you didn't just kind of execute the hey, like you got ransomware, who's going to do the backups? They say they want to get paid, like executives, are we going to pay the money? And moved it into like, all right, now like you've been here 48 hours, like how do you feel? Or like insert kind of like stressors into the situation in order to like toggle with people's psychology.
I haven't, but that's a very good point. It's again, it's bringing real world scenarios to the table.
I love it. So we do have some answers in chat. Um, and let me see if I can find it. Cheddar Bob scored first, if you will. We'll get a confirmation from John himself right now, but where is it? Where is it? Oh, here we go. John, is Cheddar Bob correct?
Ding, 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 ding.
Nailed it. Nice job, Cheddar Bob. Super happy, super glad for you. We got a couple more questions coming into chat. I love it. AB wants to know, do you know of any emerging psychological profiling methods using OSINT data on how an attack might affect different groups psychologically? That's a deep, thoughtful question, AB. Wow.
Wow. Yeah, that is deep.
I'll give you a hot minute on that one.
Well,
I'll do jazz hands while you're thinking on it.
I think that OSINT is really there are companies out there that they're doing just that to try and see if something's on the horizon. So if you see a cloud, is it an invade on the horizon? Is it an invading army, or is it a storm? I think emerging psychological profiling methods. Now, I'm not a forensic psychologist, so I would probably just wing it here and say there probably are. But I mentioned a group. I would have to defer to the cyberpsychology pioneers like Mary Aiken. There's a video that she does that is a fascinating intro to the subject.
Well, there you go, AB. Thanks for the question. John, beyond traditional cybersecurity training awareness, which we're all quite familiar with, is there any things that how can organizations use psychological principles to create more effective security education for their workforce?
Well, bring it up. That's the first thing, is that we know that there's a human factor here. And we know that all technologies can fail. And Dr. Lee Hadlington says that it's great to have technology, but it only takes one person. So when we actually start having the conversation, then it's like, oh yeah, it's like me and cyber psychology before I knew what it was. It's like, oh, that's a thing. And you normally get two looks. It's like, oh, didn't know that exists, or oh, you're one of those. But
that's too funny. Yeah. Please, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Yeah.
No, that's my thought.
That's the response. Oh, I see. Perfect. Well, then what? I mean, I know that this is like fairly new as far as like studying it goes, which is great why we're talking about it today. But are there any metrics, or what metrics or indicators can organizations or people in chat today use to assess the psychological health of their security culture at their organization? Because it's very qualitative, right? It's very subjective. But there's got to be a way to say, like, the culture here sucks and it's pretty good over here. Is there any type of like measurement or metrics or techniques that you can do to understand where the culture is? Because you obviously want to know where it is so you can drive towards a better situation.
Well, I've done surveys, seeing how people value these cybersecurity initiatives. If they think is this burdensome, was the word earlier that I was looking for. Do they seem the initiatives seem burdensome? And also, sorry, question again?
Yeah, the question was like, are there any like, is there any way to kind of like measure how the security culture is at an organization, right? Because we've in this in this conversation, we've already identified how valuable security culture is and how it can really help tamper down compromises and incidents at your organization, because the human factor is very valuable. But if you, say you're a CISO or anybody in chat just got hired and they walk into an organization and they want to try to understand, like, what's the security culture here? I mean, obviously you can do like the thumb in the wind and get a vibe, but is there any type of techniques or any type of utility around getting a better idea than a thumb in the wind?
Well, you basically, you can look at the, if I was coming into an organization and wanted to figure out what the culture was like I mentioned earlier, it was surveys. Talk to the tech staff and see what kind of tickets they're getting, what kind of questions, what seem to be their stumbling points. I don't have an exact tool, but it involves a lot of engaging in dialogue with the different parties. So take a look at the stakeholders.
So I got a lightning question for you, John. This one just occurred to me because it's very appropriate, but it's also very polarizing. Where are you? And defend your answer. Where are you on phishing your own users? You know, that's like a hotly debated topic in our industry around the value of it and should you do it. And so I'm curious, a man like yourself, where are you on phishing your users?
Done judiciously. It's you don't want to be carrying a stick. I like to bring a carrot instead of a stick. I think it's a necessary evil, and some of the people don't like to make the exercises real. They like to make them more softball, but I don't think that's a fair assessment of how people are going to, or how easily people are going to fall for emails that say your Microsoft account needs to be re-verified, and it's you got to do it. You may not be popular, but you got to do it.
You got to do it. Now, I do want to point out in chat, because chat's popping off on this one. I do find it interesting. You ever get a text message from someone, John, and like you know who they are. It's not like a fish, but like it's hard to tell what they're saying because there's no tone when you read text messages or Discord DMs or LinkedIn. It's hard to tell the tone. Justin Gold in chat says around phishing your own employees, he says, do it. Right? Like it sounds like Emperor Palpatine, right? Talking to young Anakin about killing Samuel L. Jackson. Do it. And make sure they're failing the phishing test. That sounds very sinister. And then he says, don't make it a punishment, which sounds quite the opposite, right? You know, so I don't know. Some people are strong on this. Let us know in chat. Sound off. Do you phish your own users? Yes or no? I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of it. I'd rather have tighter email security controls, and then when an end user really does fall for a phish, go make them feel better about themselves by letting them know that anyone could fall for it. And I don't know.
Well,
go ahead.
What's the outcome of the phish? Your email security systems are only so effective, and there's always going to be, like in my case, that 0.01% that comes through. So in this case, we had an email that came through. It met none of the criteria for being stopped by the filters and defense in depth, layered security. And they looked at it. It had to do with what our business was. And the user looked at it and said, this doesn't feel right. It was an email with text about business related items. It had a JPEG in it. So there was nothing, there were no links in it. And they said this didn't feel right. So I looked at it and it said, no, it doesn't feel right. I took the attachment out of the header in base 64, sent it off to FortiGuard, and it came back as Remcos. Remcos, I just gotten a notification on that 2 weeks prior, is a nation state level remote access Trojan. So that's where the 0.01% defense comes in. We engage people's emotional intelligence. So we're not just training them not to click, we're training them to not want to click. So engage the human element, engage
the human element. A lot of people are popping off on this about, like this is almost as polarizing as people saying GIF or GIF. People feel, like I said, people are very strongly opinionated about these things. So we only got about 10 minutes left, but John, you are a member of the ISC2 Florida chapter, and you are also, chapter members with the likes of FedEx and James McQuiggan at 35,000 feet.
James.
Spill the tea. Is James McQuiggan really funny? Like, this guy's got dad jokes for days. Like, where is he? Just like, does he have an opening monologue? Does he take the stage like Seinfeld when the chapter meetings start? What's going on there?
I love James, not physically, but no, he's great. He's got a great sense of humor, and the ISC 2 Christmas party last year was phenomenal. And now James has been around for a long time. And by the way, Jeff Macri from Darktrace said to say hello.
Oh, right on. Very cool. Yeah, thank you very much. That's good. Yeah, I love it. So let me ask you, because we talk a lot in the community about the value of networking and relationship building. You don't have to cheerlead for ISC2, but how has being part of a information security professional community been impactful for your career?
Well, very one easy answer is that it exposes me to new technologies, new ways of thinking. And if you have an issue, you can always reach out to the community and say, okay, this is what we're trying to do. What are your thoughts? It's being part of a hive mind.
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, guys, if you're watching this, you're in chat. I mean, just relationships matter, networking matters. I mean, John reached out to me on LinkedIn, or maybe he had commented about cyberpsychology, and I messaged him about it or something like that. But just kind of like a nice organic conversation around literally a term that I had not heard before. Just as a fun fact, cyber cartographer was another word I hadn't heard before. And that was Ricky Tan's company/role down in Austin, Texas. He came on the show maybe 2 years ago. But that was another industry term. I love cybersecurity, John. I really, really do. And learning something new about it is always a lot of fun for me. So we got about maybe 6-7 minutes left here, John. What kind of work are you doing? What kind of projects you're working on? What kind of things you got coming up? Speaking engagements, conferences you'll be at? Any type of things that people can get amped about for some John?
Well, I'm. This was probably the biggest thing, other than presenting to the DoD. That was actually a little unnerving, knowing that you're speaking to a large number of people. I wrote a chapter in a book on mental health in the cyber workplace. Basically, just trying to get the word out and let people know that security is not just technology. It's we tend to think of cybersecurity as attackers versus defenders, but it's not quite as all about the tools. It's like, how do we use the tools? How do we feel about the tools? One of the things that there's a gentleman here in town, here in Florida rather, that is an expert on fully autonomous vehicles, and I wanted to talk to him because when I was a part of Coleman Technologies, I was a part of the DARPA challenge on autonomous vehicles. Oh, wow. And before he would talk to me, he actually asked me to read his dissertation and provide a written feedback. And I'm glad I did, because there is something called the universal theory of acceptance and use of technology. And it's a very long equation, but it'll tell you how people will, whether they will adopt a technology, accept it, and actually use it. So factors like societal influence. Do people around you feel that what you're using or doing has value? Effort expectancy. How much effort is expected to be expended when you're doing this, using this tool? Facilitating conditions. Is the technology or the support structure, does it exist in order for you to use this technology? And you add all those little variables together and you get the behavioral intention. So that's basically, are people going to accept this technology and use it? So this is where we really have to engage people into our initiatives. We have to get buy-in. Leadership. You need to have TTTAM, which is tools. Sorry, not tools. Do not start with tools. Time, talent, tools, authority, and management backing. And management backing can be anything from funding to actual say, okay, let's get this done. We value it. So you, without any one of those five, you can fail or you could succeed poorly. So that's about culture, personal attitude. If your organization gave you a tool that would have substantial positive impact to protect your organization or a process, and through organizational culture or personal attitude, you didn't use it, would your mission fail?
Yeah, definitely food for thought. And yeah, it's a dissertation. That's a big ask. I mean, that's like that's not reading an academic paper. That's reading a book. Jesus. So, I mean, I'm glad it worked out though, as far as the value of that. Speaking of books, man, what a segue this guy's doing. AB wants to know any books or resources you recommend for cyber ops pros to develop psychological mindsets, since they both are offensive and defensive roles. What do you recommend here, John?
Can't I've had some titles in my head, but I just had an evaporation moment. I'll shoot you some links. Now there are. I'll shoot you some links.
All right, there you go, AB. And he is a very active member on the Simply Cyber Discord server, so certainly can get you those links, AB, if he gets to me or if John hops on the server himself. John, your wait, oh my God, your handle is not John on Discord. It's Find It True or Find It Through. What's your handle on Discord so people can connect with you?
I think it was CyberSec John, cybersecurity John.
Oh, Jesus, I'm sorry. I'm confusing you with someone else. For some reason, I'm sorry. So to Find It Through, I'm sorry, because I'm definitely confusing you with John right now.
I actually didn't. There are a lot of really incredible people. I'm aspiring to be one that started in cybersecurity that didn't have a background, or in IT that didn't have a background in technology. And I have a degree in foreign languages and psychology, which means I come in from a different direction. And I never thought that I would be using psychology actually in technology, but it just seemed the way. Much like when you look at people who are talking about zero trust methodologies, and when you're looking at, when people start talking about what they're doing, it's like, well, that just makes sense. So.
Well, yeah. So actually, we didn't talk too much about this, but I'd love just to touch on this, man. Like, so as far as zero trust goes, right? I mean, that's what you spoke to the DoD about, right? Was zero trust. So how does zero trust work into all of this as far as cyber psychology? Because a lot of people might not see the connection here, including myself.
Okay, well, out of the zero trust tenets, you assume a hostile environment. So in some cases, people will say, I'm on an office network, so I'm safe. So when you change that mindset, your people are thinking, okay, well, I may not be as safe as I think, so maybe I should be more careful. It's like, watch your step when you're going over a curb, or presume breach. When you're designing systems, make sure that you're limiting the possibilities of like lateral movement, eliminate the invincibility bias. Well, these are the three that I brought up at the conference. Never trust, always verify. And this is big. I think it was a audio visual deep fake where they tricked somebody into saying sending some major payments, and BEC attacks, business email compromise. If you have procedures, follow them. And this is one of the things I when I mentor people, I say, develop good best practices and follow them always, even when you're tired. When you come back to something after 6 months or a year that it's been running and you need to make an adjustment or an addition, then you're going to go, yes, I did it the right way.
I love it. John, any final thoughts or where people can connect with you on the interwebs in order to get more John in their life?
Well, follow me on LinkedIn. I think
the link is in the description of this show. I'm almost certain.
I'm not as a social a social media person, is a big of a social media person as yourself. So I don't have my own Discord channel, but I do some posts on LinkedIn. I'm always talking about different things. One of the things is that well, you mentioned AI earlier, is that people are actually becoming emotionally attached to AI, and it has the potential to affect critical thinking and learning. And I think that effect is called the ELIZA effect.
The ELIZA effect. Okay, so there's some homework for everybody. Go check out the ELIZA effect. And while you're at it, open a new tab. If you're like me, you have 75 open already. Open a 76th tab and go to LinkedIn and connect with John Caballero. If you type in his name, you can see it on stream right there. Or if you're watching on replay, you can see it. And you'll be able to pull him right up. He looks just like he does right now. There's no deep fake action going on here on John's grill. John, I want to say thank you so very much for joining us today, talking about cyber psychology, how threat actors are manipulating it to get better effects for themselves, and what we can do as practitioners to help defend. Plus a little insight into some James McQuiggan in your life. Thank you so very much. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for everything you're doing. I love watching you every day.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and thank you for the feedback. I definitely appreciate that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is John Caballero. John, thank you so much, guys. That was Cyber Psychology with John Caballero. If you enjoyed the stream, share it with someone else on the stream. Grab a link, throw it on your socials, throw it on LinkedIn, wherever. We're here every Thursday doing deep dive conversations with members of the cybersecurity community with the exclusive intent of leveling every single person up. So invest 1 hour, walk away with value for yourself. I'm Jerry from Simply Cyber. I hope you enjoyed the living crap out of this interview, because I certainly did. Be well, enjoy the rest of your day, and until next time, stay secure.